And then you see the three animals together in the centre section, and then on the right hand side you just have the wilderness, this unknown that they're going to go into. The second panel's got the dog and the rabbit together. The dog's like the oldest child in the family. It tries to kind of be a parent, and dogs are loyal and whatnot. The rabbit's just a kind of space cadet and just goes along with the other two. And the cat, because cats are kind of independent and selfish and whatnot, it's actually cut into almost a separate panel again on its own, because it's actually not interested in what the other two are talking about. It's actually got its wee laser sight trained on a bird that's flying along, and we just follow the bird through the treetops in the first of those little small panels. Then it's underlit by a red laser, then it gets shot by the little scalpel things or nail gun type things that the cat fires out, and then we see from underneath the cat that it catches it. And then it's left holding this. It's like Who Killed Cock Robin. It's a wee bird with a wee, almost like a wee arrow in its heart, you know, which is actually a wee note in the last page, if you want to flick 2 pages ahead, I think. Again, just more of the same thing, and then the last page you've got that, and you've got it's not got the full black gutter all round it because it is a kind of splash page, but it's rooted in the blackness at the bottom, and like when you're in a forest, you know, it gets lighter as you go up. It's still got the trees and the same motifs that we were using for the rest of the scene, and they're going down into the undergrowth, and then in the sky you've got the birds flying away because the helicopters are out looking for them. So again, it was just a simple splash page of helicopters coming in the distance and the animals going away into the undergrowth, but you know, and you should just be able to look at it and know that's what it is. But if you wanted to spend a wee bit longer, you realise it's all the same kind of themes and designs and whatnot as had been going on before. Cool. Okay, again, now this is in the scenes where the animals are in action. It does become, Grant wanted something that you really could, that really would be rewarded by multiple readings, but it also, to some extent, it had to work as much as possible in a simple way. Now these pages are much more challenging because there's so much information in them, but this is a double page spread, so you're kind of holding it 10 inches away from your nose or whatever anyway, but you've got the top panel, you've got the soldiers running down the hill and a truck, you know, a jeep driving down the hill, and if you ignore all the small panels on the top just now, you've got a strobe action of the dog going from left to right, diving, shooting his guns, diving through the windscreen of the truck, out the back doors, and then he lands on the hillside and fires a missile. We don't know where yet, but it turns out it's into a helicopter that explodes the next page. All the inset panels you can read in order, but they're all tiny close-ups of this scene that you're actually only seeing from a distance. So starting from left to right, you've got the shell casings flying through the air, then you've got the shell casings coming out of the back of one of the bits of the dog, then you've got the dog's claws, or you know, at the front of its cannon, it's artificial claws, and the flare from the guns. Then you've got perfectly shaped bullets held in a moment in time through all these bits of shattered windscreen. Then you've got one of the bullets right in front of an eye. Then you've got something, you know, like the blood coming out the back of a helmet. Then you've got a close-up of the bullet all folded up, and so on, and it just goes on like that. You know, you've got the foot, you know, like on trying to brake on the brake pedal, and then coming off again. But everything's arranged depth-wise, so the stuff that's higher up, you know, in the panel, like people getting shot in the head, all those panels that are at the top, and the stuff down at the bottom is like the gas pedals and stuff. It's not easy to see in this, but they're down near the bottom of the truck wheels, and you've got like a tooth flying out, a foot, then a lucky rabbit's foot that you'd seen earlier on dangling from the windscreen. You don't need to get, or you shouldn't get all this in your first reading because it just it would take too long. But it's just a dog diving through the truck, and there's lots of tiny images of carnage.
One of the things I thought about this when I saw it first was, I wondered if you were trying to get over the perception of the animals and the fact that their reaction was much faster than the humans, and it was a way of putting that across as well.
Well, that's what Grant was wanting.
Is that right?
Obviously, we couldn't really suggest that they can smell and sense and feel, and you know, like, and see and kind of think action-wise much faster than we can. But
that's what it looks like there to me.
But yeah, I mean that's obviously part of it. But the panel below is just the cat up the tree firing his pins at all the soldiers down below. But on the right-hand side of that panel, the branches of the tree actually become part of the gutters, where you break up into these mini panels. And the bottom left one is actually, oh sorry, the top left corner of the big long bottom spread is the trucks and the soldiers jumping out the back of the trucks. Then the one just below it is a soldier creeping about nervously, and then the one at the bottom is a soldier turning round and looking up at us, and there's the silhouette of the cat's head right in the bottom left hand corner. But running across the way above the cat, you've also got the cat leaping about from the branches, but each time you see the cat leaping, he's actually in a little individual frame himself. But just glancing at the panel, you're meant to just think, well, there's the cat up the tree firing his pins. Then there's a couple of insets of the cat's eyes, one with fully dilated pupils, and then the pupil just snaps shut, because that's what cats do just before they attack. And then you've got a few close-ups of the claws coming out, and then the wee pins firing out of between the claws, and then you've just got this mishmash of images, like you've got the hand holding the gun and then a pin going through a nail, you've got somebody screaming as a pin goes through their tongue, and then just below that another one where it's actually a pin's breaking one of their teeth, and then there's, you know, like a burst eye and blah blah blah, and you've got dents in the front of the helmet. As kind of 3/4 of the way to the right of the panel, you've got from the top, you've got the pins flying out towards us, one of them glinting in the sunshine. Then you've got the dents in the helmet, as they've obviously gone right in through the metal. Then you've got the soldier dropping down onto his knees with blood running down his face, but obviously not coming out of the helmet because it wouldn't. And then you've got him falling flat onto his face. So even though you can read it just as a random jumble of carnage, it does actually work kind of left to right and top to bottom in a number of different ways. So as I say, I mean, these are pretty much the most complicated, visually, you know, like confusing looking pages in the comic, because most of it is still always about that thing about simplicity. But you know, Grant was really pushing me to try and do something.